Welcome to Licensed Poetics, a podcast about books and art. I'm your host, Fang Ling.
And I've been graduated to also host Derek.
Yay! To be honest, this is a long overdue promotion. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I can't wait for my pay bump.
I think our salary is going to go from negative to positive for once. You know, once we have our big collaboration project with FBI Radio.
That sounded like you were doing an ad for yourself.
This whole thing is an ad for myself. Thank you very much.
A podcast is just an ad for you as a person. That's pretty good.
Yes, it really is. I want to introduce today's guest, the poet, Eric Jiang. Welcome.
Hello. Can I speak now? Yay. Yay.
Okay, I'm really, really excited to have you in today's episode, and I'll explain why in my later story time, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I'll read your bio. Eric Jiang is a Chinese-Australian artist based on Gadigal land. Their practice is predominantly text-based and encompasses poetry, theater, and screen. Their work considers and complicates queer futures, family and friendship, celebrating transformative and intense non-romantic relationships, the limits of language, and critiquing the ongoing project of Asian representation. His plays have been performed on independent theatre stages in Sydney, and his poetry has been published in Cordite, Liminal, Australian Poetry Journal, and more.
Thanks for having me.
Yay! Okay, as usual, we're going to do our story time and maybe some reading updates. I'll do a really short one because there's this one book that I really have to talk about. But after that, the main theme of today's episode is our problematic favorite books.
Just before we go on, are we tickling the yellow? Because I feel like we're not.
It's okay if it's a little bit quiet because I can adjust the volume.
All right, okay, cool.
In post.
I found out about that term like last
Tickle
Yeah.
the yellow.
Tickle the yellow.
It's an insane term.
Yeah.
It feels so
Makes you
gross.
feel weird.
It's pretty gross. And also, maybe it was because we were talking about like Culture Guide or
Race.
whatever, and Asian representation. Now I'm like, tickle the yellow. Oh, okay, yeah, I don't feel good about that.
Okay, that was funny. Okay, no. Okay, yes. So it was your idea, Derek, to talk about problematic favorite books. What inspired you to have that idea?
I was sitting down and then I realized that most of my favorite books are problematic. I went, oh,
That's a very relatable feeling.
it's the burden of being a straight guy. What are you going to do?
Let's get started with the story time first. I really want to hear your story, Derek, this week because it's about Northanger Abbey. Is that how you say it? Northanger Abbey or Northanger Abbey?
I just say Northanger because I'm lazy, but I don't actually know what the real pronunciation is.
But yeah, the 1817 or whatever novel by Jane Austen. I read that book last year and I really enjoyed it, but you said your sister didn't like it.
Yeah, so basically the story is I'd either gone out like the night before or something like that, and then like at 4 a.m. I get like a Instagram video call from my sister and her friend. And I'm like,
4 a.m.
Yeah, like 4 a.m. And I guess I wasn't sleeping well, so I picked up anyway. They were in a bookstore, and I think my sister had like showed her friend like one of the episodes, and was like, "Oh my god, we should like," because for context, my sister is currently in the US, and
I was like, what bookstore is open at 4 a.m.? I need to go there.
No, so
if she listened to one of our past episodes, it must have been our 2023 reading wraps because I talked about Northanger Abbey in that book, in that episode.
Yeah, if she had, but she didn't. Like, I think I was about to say, sorry.
Okay.
It was a nice moment.
You're still influential.
Yeah, you're still influential. Don't worry. Because I think they listened to maybe, what's the one with Anya? What did like the book club? One of the book club episodes, basically.
The Vegetarian.
Yeah, and she was just like, oh, maybe we should like read a book because my sister's friend is in Serbia, she's in the US, and they were like,
I know, right?
and so they were like, oh, okay, well, that's why they called me at fucking 4 a.m.
This is a very complicated story time now.
It's just really annoying. Like basically, they called me and they were like, hey, can we get a recommendation? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do it in the morning. Like, and then Nikki's friend was like, actually, I'm in the store right now. Just tell me what book to pick.
I love
It's
this. It's
urgent,
like
yeah.
emergency book recommendation.
It was so stupid. Like she was like she had a camera on and she was like panning it very slowly across the entirety of the bookshelf.
Say when, yeah.
Because there's
Say
only
when.
like
And then you just have to pick one
Yeah.
from
because it's in Serbia, right? So like she went to the English book section and just slowly it's like one
okay.
shelf and she's slowly
That
panning
makes a bit
across.
more sense.
Yeah.
It's not like
Serbia is
a rec-
important to the story.
It's not like one recommendation from the entire bookstore. It's one shelf. So
It's one
it
shelf.
makes a bit more sense now.
But not really, because I had to like wait for her to scan the entirety of the fucking shelf, like slowly with the fucking. Anyway, oh, you're gonna have to bleep that. But essentially, I didn't know, like I was squinting at my phone, like I couldn't really see it anyway.
That's so funny.
I remember recommending one book. I can't remember what it was, and she was like, "Ah, it's too long." I'm like,
No, Thinker Abbey is not short.
"It kind of is."
Okay, well, my edition that I borrowed from my friend Michelle is like,
deluxe edition.
yeah, it's the Penguin Classics
What is it?
Deluxe edition.
Is it like what is the size of the font? Is it like 42?
It's quite big. It's quite big.
Like
But it's not. Well, it's not that
bold
short.
impact. In the end, I was just like, Northern Abbey was good. I remember like when I was like an English tutor, I like taught it to my year 11, 12s, and they liked it, and I liked the book as well.
Mm.
And so I was like, oh, I did a good job, and then I went back to bed. And like a week later, they messaged me like, we hate this book. This book sucks.
Wait, so they did a buddy read across US and Serbia.
Yeah.
How
So
cool
I
is that?
wasted my time.
How cool is that? So what are their complaints about the book?
It's really boring. And I thought it was good. Like it's the Jane Austen novel that like the one that I like.
The only critique I had of the book is that the structure isn't as satisfying or as straightforward as, say, Pride and Prejudice. But it's a really cool, it's like Regency era reality TV. Like you read about all this drama. Like there's this one character that we hate, one character that we love. And then the character that we hate tries to sabotage a date that our main character has with the guy that she actually likes. But then we later on find out that the girl we hate is flirting with someone that she has no business to be flirting with. Like it's that kind of juicy drama.
Gossip. I love
right?
Yeah, but it was not my 4 a.m. recommendation was not appreciated. So
Well, to be fair, if they're not used to reading Jane Austen, are they?
I have no idea. Like I actually don't know what they read at all. It was literally like I was going through the bookshop and I kept recommending stuff and it was like too long. It's like, okay.
And did they want you to apologize?
No.
Like,
Can you imagine?
what? Yeah, like, what do they want from you from that point? Were they like,
Oh God. Look, I actually made this point recently to my friend where it's like, I think Jane Austen's screen adaptation should be enjoyed like unapologetically. Like I think they're modernized and the essence of her story has been created on screen. I'm talking about the 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice featuring Colin Firth and Jennifer Ely.
Wait, hang on. Isn't there a battle between the two? Like, there's two
Yeah.
Pride and Prejudice
Yeah.
movies,
Yeah.
and you like one or the other,
I haven't
right?
seen either.
One's a TV show, one's a movie. The movie featuring Keira Knightley, right?
Yeah.
I think that's 2005.
Yeah.
I love both of them. I think they're good in different ways. And my point is just like, Jane Austen's language is very removed from our current speech. So it's perfectly fine to just watch the adaptation.
Is there a circumstance where watching the adaptation is not okay? Is this a thing in like the book community that it's like, don't watch the show or the movie?
Yeah, I think there is that. You can call it being a snob, I guess. Like the book is always better. Yeah, so maybe ask your sister and her friend to watch either the film Pride and Prejudice or the TV show and see if
And
that
then-
changes their mind about Jane Austen. I think you need to be closer to the mic. Not that close, Jesus Christ.
I got a short tongue, so my rule
The
didn't
tongue
work.
test.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing your story time.
That was actually shut the
She
fuck
said,
up.
shut up. yeah.
I really enjoyed it. That was such a fun story time, though. I love 4 a.m. book conversations.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say that your sister was so angry at the book that she called you at 4 a.m.
No,
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
like in the middle of the night to
no,
complain
it
about
was
the book.
just mild inconvenience.
I'm like, I admire the passion.
Wait, just one more question. So your sister and her friend were in different cities,
yeah,
but they group called you?
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
That's so awesome.
I love it. Okay, so my story time is less funny, I'll admit, more heartwarming and more I
Could you
don't
really
know.
be selling it that aggressively right off the bat? That's like a comedian going on stage and being like, anyway, I'm fucking hilarious. Here we go.
But also, wait, one interjection. I like how you opened your story with "It's not that interesting" because I think that's a good kind of
It's a character
lowers
beat.
the expectations.
It's a
Okay,
Because I
fine.
hate it when people are like, "This is a funny story." Then, I'm like, then like,
I
no,
said
you
it's
said
not-
it wasn't.
yeah.
When people say it's a funny story, though, I think my expectations get too high, and then I'm like, it's really hard to.
Well, my story time involves you, Eric.
So it
I
must be
don't-
like amazing. Great.
Yeah, I mean, I've already raised the expectations that high. I mean, I have nothing to lose anymore at this point.
the illustrious Eric.
Yeah, illustrious. Okay, so my story time is I read your poem. Is it pronounced Gilly G or Gilly G?
Gilly G.
Oh, amazing. So I read your poem Gilly G during lockdown, I think. And during a time when I was sort of rediscovering literature and especially poetry. And I loved your poem so much. And this was way before I started licensed poetics and even before I started writing properly. And I remember reading your poem and just thinking, I wish I could meet this guy and talk to this guy. So,
Wow.
so yeah, I'm just so excited to meet you today. Yeah, okay, so Gilly G is published on Cordite, which is an Australian poetry journal / website. And it's, I would say it's a queer romance poem
Yeah.
inspired by the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Gilgamesh and Enkidu, I don't know how to pronounce
I think that's
Enkidu,
right.
yeah, right. And at the time, I was stuck in China because with the Australian border closures during COVID-19, I wasn't able to come back. But I read your poem, and the poem involves a line describing Parramatta Road. And I was like, oh no, I miss it so much. I want to come back.
Oh my
so
God, I
much.
miss
To
Parramatta
Parramatta
Road.
Road.
I never thought I would until I read your poem.
Wow.
Do you drive? Do you
yeah.
drive on Parramatta Road?
Yeah.
And you miss driving
miss
on Parramatta Road?
I don't miss driving. I just miss Parramatta Road because my partner at the time, he lived near Parramatta Road as well. And I'm like, oh, we have memories on Parramatta
yeah.
Road together. And we were separated at the time, so it was really hard. But yeah, I love this poem, Gilly G. Are you able to read a little bit of it?
Sure.
Actually, do you mind if I read it? Because I have the lines
Yes,
here.
I think you should.
Okay,
I think
okay,
it's-
amazing.
it's-
Yeah, it's a very romantic love poem, but also very accessible. The stars falling in dizzy waves up and up over the lip of this world. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yes.
It makes sense that you would remember
I
it.
remember that one.
Okay,
Remember when
yeah.
that happened?
Oh, here's the Parramatta Road line. I'll miss the way you hold the light on your skin so effortlessly. Hence, I'm tramping down Parramatta Road to 7-Eleven for a donut, for something sweet. And I see lit by blocklight Gilgamesh, vape smoke streaming out of his mouth, dead and pink and alive. He says without words, only the smell of blueberries. I didn't include the next line for some reason.
Are you trying to...
You're like bad bad line. Cut that. Cut it.
I was going to say, like, are you rewriting? Like, I saw you, like, turn your head and you were like...
Oh,
It's
really?
weird to hear. Well, it's weird to hear your own words, right? Do you feel that? No.
Oh, God.
Oh. We definitely feel that.
I remember when I was starting out, like theater, when actors would read the script. When I was first starting
Oh
out,
my God.
my head was my hands. I was like doubled over, and
We
I just
totally
had that feeling again.
We completely relate to that. But don't worry about this poem. I think it's beautifully written.
Oh, okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, she actually sent it to me because I'm like almost anti-poetry.
Oh,
Don't listen.
what?
I don't know,
What the hell?
anyway, yeah.
We have a poet here.
Wait,
Derek.
what?
and then she sent it to me, and I was like, actually, this is good. This is actually really good.
Okay.
I was like,
You managed to impress Derek,
Wow.
who is a famous poetry hater.
That's insane.
this is like negging. I'm like negging you. Jeez.
what?
What was your inspiration behind this poem?
I think I love a mythic figure, like the figure, and I love an kind of updated, contemporized version of the mythic. And I think I wrote this. I think this poem for me is about kind of feeling very distant from my ex at the time. So it's very like a feeling of
distant.
separation. Yeah.
I
So it was
love
interesting. It was interesting that you
inspired
said.
this.
Yeah. But yeah, no, just the confluence of those things, and really enjoying going to 7-Eleven at that time. Yeah,
It's such a beautiful and clever imagery to put in there that vape smoke.
Oh, the vapes are over there, right? I feel like
Yeah,
vapes are
I was gonna.
yeah,
like,
vapes are dated.
vapes are done.
Yeah, it's so dated
It's back
now.
to cigarettes now.
Yeah. Oh yes, what are you talking about?
Oh, cigarettes don't smell
being
like
cool.
cigarettes don't smell like blueberries. So in poetry, vape is better.
Maybe there's menthols. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
It's like-
Adapt that.
It's someone who understands the purpose of pop culture.
Oh, not me. Don't look in my direction. Yeah, so
Thanks
that's my
for reading
story
that.
time. Thank you so much. Do you have a story time?
Well, I think that segues well into my not really story time, just like riffing on I guess the act of reading poetry out loud, and I'm a big hater actually, but not of that, but like
Yes,
like,
yes, this is the energy.
just
Oh
like
no.
I don't know, like you have like going to readings. I guess I think there's. I love the sense of community and the words, but there's something about being a poem being read out loud, which feels like a different form to me that people don't really consider as much. And
I so agree. To be honest, sometimes I feel like there should always be a projector to project the poem onto
yes, I think like hearing it and seeing it is great.
Yeah.
Great. But I don't know, things I love, like some of the things I love about poetry is like one, enjambment, and you can't get enjambment
Sonically.
audially, because there's just paused, like that kind of visual flicker is like not there. And the second thing is like knowing how long the poem is.
Oh yeah.
And like knowing that it'll end, like you see it.
That's such a good point. I think knowing the length of a poem and knowing when it stops is actually crucial information that you should get.
Like I love starting a poem and like knowing that it must end so soon.
Yeah. I think like knowing it'll end soon kind of affects the way you listen to even the beginning lines as well.
Is it because you can visually you can see the structure?
Yeah, like all the visual stuff is like, I don't know, really important to me. And then just there are some times where I'm like listening to someone and how they're saying it, and maybe it's like a bit too performative, just really like jazz, and I'm like, oh, this feels like weird.
Like your performance is ruining the poem.
Yeah, like
honestly, sometimes that can happen. It's when people use that really flat cadence.
But I think I like that.
I totally agree, because I actually really hate performative.
Say what I mean by flat cadence is this, and I'm gonna use your poem as an example.
Oh no!
Feng Ling's gonna punish me now.
I've done that so many times.
Say it's this. Hence, I'm tramping down Parramatta Road to 7-Eleven for a donut, for something sweet. Do you like that?
That's a yes. That's it.
I like both. I think the way you said it like before was very like natural. And I feel like you were trying to make fun of me this time.
Not make fun of you, make fun of people who read poems like this.
Yeah. But I definitely prefer like flat over animated, I think. Every time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's whack.
Yeah.
Flat is whack. Go.
That's gonna be the episode title. I've already decided.
I don't know. People who are like actors as well as poets tend to like, I don't know. I'm moving my arms around a lot.
Yes!
You know what I mean? Yeah, like
Rich coming from a theater guy, Eric.
yeah, no, like, but I think like there's something about
Understated.
Yeah, understated, focused,
Natural.
like yeah. But no, my story time that was my kind of complaint kind of section.
Yeah.
But my story time is the best reading I ever went to.
Okay.
Yes.
Which was Eileen Myers. You know Eileen Myers? No? Oh my god, you gotta read Eileen Myers.
If poet, then no.
Oh,
No, I refuse, but there'd be no way.
Eileen Myers.
Yeah, they might be one of my favorite living poets. Possibly my favorite living poet.
Well, they're 74 years old.
That's so bleak.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have much longer.
Eileen Myers. I know Eileen Myers.
Enjoy Eileen Myers.
Yeah, well, you can.
I think they're known for like really accessible forms, right?
Or
maybe I haven't confused with
like
someone
I guess they are, but I wouldn't. That's not the first thing I would say about.
Oh right, okay.
Interesting. This word accessibility, but we'll talk about that. It's fine. No, so they like their poetry, I don't know if you've like seen of it, but it's very like short lines and of like 2 or 3 words and like pretty long, like downwards.
Yeah.
And they came on, and firstly the kind of tone and style I thought was really interesting. It was quite forceful and fast, and yet it was still really clear and understandable. And I think it's partly due to the kind of the clarity of the poetry. Like it's not too florid, so it's kind of it's easy to understand.
For those of us who don't understand the word florid, can we get a definition?
Flowery,
Right.
not overly descriptive. Yeah, not overly descriptive. And then they spoke really fast, which I thought was like really melded well into the kind of the poetry on the page that you see. Because their lines are so short. It's not like with longer lines, I feel like you're strolling in a garden. But like with these shorter lines and their forceful delivery, it's like constant free fall. It's like free fall. It's aggressive. I don't know if that makes sense.
Was this in Sydney or in America?
It was in America.
Okay.
This place called Artist Space. It was like $5. It was weird. It was like it was only $5. Everyone was there. Like it felt like
That's
a
cool.
little gift.
Amazing.
It feels very egalitarian almost. It's
Yeah.
like $5. It's
Oh
like
my god, I want to go.
Yeah.
Was this in New York?
Yes, it was. The other thing they did, which I thought was really interesting, was they would kind of explain things, which sounds weird, but
you get like a director's cut.
it's like a director's
that's cool.
cut.
Before, after, or during?
Like during.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
that's so awesome.
it
That's
felt
cool.
like the poems were like annotated, like there was something really rich
Yeah.
about that listening experience. And also the way that they explained things was delivered in the same cadence and style as the poetic text.
Wow.
So I thought it was like really kind of slippery and interesting.
Meta poetry.
Yeah, like how to
that actually is a director's cut.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last thing is that they were reading this really long poem, and then they had lost a page
Oh
on
no.
that poetry, and if it was me, I'd be like, oh, I didn't know. But they were really like cool and confident, and they were just like, oh, this page is missing, like, and they like kind of said it from memory, but also like said what it could be and what they think it was in the same cadence as well. And it felt very kind of imaginative and invented on the spot. And then they like got to the bit where their poem came back, and then they just like kept reading that.
Oh, wow.
I was like, wow, like it just felt like virtuosic and like really beautiful.
Has it
virtuosic. Yeah.
has it ever crossed your mind that this is just part of the performance?
Yeah, of course.
That's
of
awesome.
course.
I think it would be so much cooler if that was actually part of the performance.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I've only seen them once, so maybe they do it every time.
Yeah. Thank you for your story time, Eric.
Thank you.
That was brilliant.
I've also been rewatching Supernatural recently.
Oh, I don't know.
That shit is-
that?
that shit is-
I was watching Doctor Who. That's not
Doctor
a
Who?
sitcom, but so good actually.
But that's
Doctor
also
Who.
like serial storytelling needs to come back in like a big way.
Yeah, I don't think the thing I love about Doctor Who is that they can go anywhere and do anything pretty much. Although like
That's the
all the
reason-
gender stuff is really weird on rewatch. Like
Oh,
that
yeah?
guy's a creep. The Doctor's a creep. The age gap. Oh, don't.
I feel like this is going to problematic.
Oh,
space.
that's a perfect segue.
Right.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Okay, well that can be mine because I don't have a.
This is what we get the
literary one.
professionals in for.
Yeah, I know, right?
Professional segues.
Okay, wait. So shall we group our problematic things into problematic groups? So your one was the gender or age gap,
Yeah.
age gap, romance. Yeah.
I've also got a lot of, because Murakami has a lot of age gap stuff.
Well, I was gonna do like well, that's a good category, age gap, and also incest, racist, and misogyny.
So I feel like incest, just not defending incest, but incest, how often is it actually like problematic? Genuine question. I don't see incest as like a problematic, like, because it's usually something Freudian or like Jungian. Like it's always some weird surreal dream bullshit. Like it's not like
Yeah. Well. Well, the author I put into the incest category, what she does is like usually between cousins, and sometimes weird emotional incest
Well, but-
between like father figures and daughters, or mother figures and
yeah.
daughters.
yeah, but that's just like a psychoanalytical sort of thing, right?
Exactly. It is.
Yeah.
It is gothic. Oh yeah, she's a gothic author. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
could be any of them. All of them, probably, right?
That's such a fair point, to be honest. But I was gonna say Daphne du Maurier.
Never read her stuff.
You really should.
It does sound like
promise
something
it's
I'd be
very,
into.
very good. Yeah.
Not the incest, for the record.
Well, one of my favorite books from her is that it's just My Cousin Rachel. And it's about romance between
Being in love with
a guy and his distant cousin, actually, in this instance. But it's still cousin.
Baby
Distant
steps.
How distant? Like third, fourth?
Well, this Rachel woman was previously married to the main character's uncle.
Is this
So-
an anime? What the hell is that?
It's not an anime. So it's like, so the main character's family is 2 generations of men, right? Like him and his uncle.
Mhm.
And then this cousin Rachel was previously married to his uncle. But now, then the uncle died under mysterious circumstances. And then Rachel arrives, and then our main character inevitably
Falls in love with her.
Rachel.
And it's very
as well.
gothic,
very gothic,
yeah.
very
Oh.
psychological,
And
very
does,
messed
does
up.
she turn out to be a monster or something? And she like murdered him for like some weird reason.
That's definitely spoiler territory.
Oh, okay.
So I
Sorry.
can't say, but I will say that Daphne du Maurier is known for her ambiguity, right? And then like the trickiest thing about her novels is that while you're reading it, you don't feel weird at all. It's only when you take a step back and you realize, oh, what this main character is doing is actually basically falling in love with his stepmom. But then when you're reading it, you're so immersed in the main character's psyche that you fell in love with her too, basically. That you go from like being jealous that your father figure has this new wife that he seems to love over you, being like a jealous son, to like just inevitably falling in love with your stepmom.
But that's kind of that's the like I was saying before, that's the classic like
Yeah, most of her books are about gender as well. So it's
that's cool.
it's that weird when a young man who has never really been around women, when he is exposed to feminine energy or having a close woman figure in his life for the first time, what that does
So
to
like
his
Dune.
side. I haven't read Dune.
Oh.
So we have to say, I think, for our problematic favorites, why they're problematic and why we still like them so much, right? Oh yeah, for Daphne du Maurier's most famous book, Rebecca, there's still a little bit of incest in it.
Oh, so
I don't
she's the
know.
right. Okay, because I have heard of Rebecca. I didn't know
Yeah,
that was.
Yeah. I've recommended Rebecca like literally a million times to everyone. There's a little bit of emotional incest in it as well. But again, it's done so subtly that you're just like, but like there's this figure that's so like perfect and mysterious, but of course everyone would fall in love with her, you know, even if it's someone who is basically a mother figure to her. And then it's just like, you know, emotional lesbian incest, you know, it's great.
I feel like we could really unpack this whole thing.
Well, but I feel like
If we start talking about our own relationships, at a certain point, this is all going to
But
crumble.
I do not
what time? What time period is this set in?
I believe both of them are actually no,
And in what-
Rebecca is set in the early 20th century in
And in-
England.
Oh, okay, in like
Yeah.
in a town or like
Yeah, in a
rural town?
yeah.
Rural.
I just feel like there aren't enough people.
Because that was where I was
Yeah,
going to go
like-
next. It's like, it's not their fault.
Yeah, like there's no one else.
Who else is there? It's like your cousin and then your stepmom. And then it's
Yeah.
like, if the
You have to
cousin
choose
is...
between one of them.
Maybe because I'm still thinking about sitcoms from what we were talking about
Me
earlier.
too.
You're always saying yeah.
But one of the things I think about sitcoms is like sitcom relationships. So you know, like the family sitcom, the relationship between the brother and sister characters is always a bit flirty. And
Oh no.
so
Oh.
like if you like watch all of them, it's kind of, or it's read like they play it that way. And the reason they do it, I think, and maybe it's probably the same in this context where you've got a very limited like set of characters who actually have stakes in any given time, and you want to create this sort of universality to everything.
yeah.
So what you end up doing is like you have no way of doing relationship work, like or character work, except by push pull it, and so it becomes this weird, almost incestuous little.
Can you give an example?
I was thinking of Monica and Ross in Friends.
That like the characters all have to have
now that I
potential.
think about it,
And I think that's why, like, in real society, there's such clear lines about, like, don't date your friend's friend. Like, people say, you know, like, you shouldn't be dating within a friend circle, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It becomes
And
incestuous.
don't date your sibling.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's straight up
Damn.
illegal, but
Hey, I think that's actually a really clever point. You know, there's something about owning-
surprisingly, Derek delivers a clever point.
Yeah, I'm so surprised. I think it's what you said, when you only have that cast of characters, and then when you have to show, because they've got to play the role of men and women too, right? Not just brother and sister. You know, like the dynamics between men and women, if that has to be shown within a limited set of characters, sometimes that is what happens. And honestly, I think that is exactly what happens in Daphne du Maurier's novels as well. Yeah, like from My Cousin Rachel, the main character has no choice but to fall in love with Rachel. Yeah. Okay, so that's incest. Should we move on to the next wonderful?
Also, another sitcom trip I really love is, oh no, we can't date anymore because we're cousins. Like, I feel like that happens all the time.
Are you thinking of
sitcoms.
Arrested
Really?
Development?
Arrested Development.
I was like,
30 Rock.
30 Rock, yeah.
New Girl, there's that as well.
I don't remember. What was it?
Jess and Robbie.
Yeah.
They're trapped in a cave and they realize that they are in the same family. It's a great way to kill a romance.
Damn.
Yeah,
I didn't realize incest category can bring out so much discussion. So, should we go on to racists? Let's talk about delightful racist
Passion of
favorite
the,
book.
does anyone like Passion of the Christ? I don't know. Like, what's a racist?
I have one.
Oh,
really?
It's an
no,
unexpected one. But do you want to go
No,
first?
no, you go. You go.
Okay,
I used to know what the timbre is.
It's actually The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath.
Really?
Yeah. Have you read it?
No.
No? Yes.
I should have just like you know that meme that's like some guy being like holding feminist literature.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah.
like, oh no, I've dropped my copy of the Bell Jar.
Oh my god, Julia Stiles reading the Bell Jar in what is it, 10 Things I Hate About You? And it's like huge. Yeah. Like, the text is so large.
Is that a movie?
Yeah. Sorry, all of my references right
Wait,
now.
like
are
a huge
Screen.
copy of.
Yeah, Screen,
yeah.
That's right. Screen is good.
That's so funny.
It's hilarious.
Like, print an extra large copy of it.
In case you didn't know, she's literary.
That's so funny. But yeah, the Bell Jar, like the theme and argument wise, there's nothing racist about that. It's just that there's some racist description. I have the line right here. It's where the main character describes herself, right? The city had faded my tan. I looked as yellow as a Chinaman.
Oh.
And
Sylvia.
yeah, she goes on to say, I noticed a big, smudgy-eyed Chinese woman staring idiotically into my face. It was me, of course, in a mirror. I was appalled to see how wrinkled and used up I looked.
Okay, I was gonna say
I've not remembered this.
because that first Chinaman line, I was like, oh, that's not that. Like that could be a time thing.
It is
And
a
then-
time thing. Yeah.
And then you got to that bit. I'm like, never mind. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
What? Idiotic.
Yeah, idiotically, yeah. So
classic.
yeah, so if you didn't know, The Bell Jar is a kind of coming of age psychological story, semi-autobiographical as well, of Sylvia Plath, who writes about her like internship in New York City one summer, and she's kind of struggling with all these like young woman issues, like who she wants to be, being jealous of other girls, being insecure about her own appearance. We can see clearly here in this line. And yeah, so it's kind of this like ridiculing of Asian appearances, right? And also like seeing them as so other as caricature that she would compare her own ugly disheveled appearance and just call herself, oh, it's a Chinese woman staring at me.
That's
Yeah. So obviously when I came across these lines, I'm like, you know, offended, uncomfortable, whatever. But I do love The Bell Jar as a book. It had a tremendous effect on me actually, because like, you know, when I read it, I was younger as well and struggling with the same exact issues, and like, you know, who do I want to be? Do I have the courage to pursue what I want? And is it going to lead me to a psychological breakdown? Or if I don't do what I want, that's what will give me the breakdown anyway. Yeah. So and Sylvia Plath's language it's just extraordinary. So I do still recommend The Bell Jar, despite Any other racist authors?
I mean, classic one has got to be H.P. Lovecraft, right? Like, it's an easy kind of like.
Oh, I've only read like 1 or 2 short stories by
Yeah,
him.
he just actually is super racist. But it's one of those things where like you can't. Whereas with Sylvia Plath, you can kind of divorce it by just being like, oh, at the time, it was not cool to be like a Chinese person, and the only Chinese people she can think of are like old ladies and stuff. And so you can kind of, it's not like you're justifying it, but you know exactly that it's not tied to anything that comes from the story. Whereas like H.P. Lovecraft is in that weird spot of being like, oh, the reason his horror is so, it works and it's so creepy and it's so othering and it's so like makes you feel small as a human is because he felt so alienated from like, and he thought that all these races were like just like terrifying and savage and bestial and like, so it's kind of one of those things where it's like
it is the actual story.
It's not just the actual story. It's like the quality of his racism and his fear and xenophobia allows him to write the thing that he wrote.
Oh my God. That is, wow.
So it's like, yeah, very like tied in with it.
Yeah. Okay. Any other racist? I think Derek is waiting for me to talk about J.D. Salinger. Although, I will go on record and say I don't think The Catcher in the Rye is problematic.
I think well
misogyny.
Yes. What a great start to sentence. Misogyny.
No, it's the way that it's framed, right? And this is an important point. It's that, you know, like how you interpret it is what actually determines whether it's problematic or not, right? Like if there is a racist line in it, it's like how you interpret it, you know? It's like, well, I think The Catcher in the Rye is about, you know, a teenage boy, and then like we're suffering his sufferings through him, and like if he sees the world in a limited way, the author knows that and presented it to us as such, honestly. So I wouldn't say that's misogynistic. But there is a racist bit from one of J.D. Salinger's other stories. It's a short story where he describes a Japanese guy as having a Fu Manchu face, as an inscrutable Fu Manchu face. That's what he said. Yeah. You're like, that's okay.
But what if his face was inscrutable?
Yeah.
And he did have the mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
true.
You're right. Yeah.
Let's go there.
Yeah. There's a reason it's only one line in my notes.
Yeah.
I also think it didn't make me angry at all. I was just like, oh, so that's how they
I'm not gonna lie, I
describe
would have
people.
laughed.
Yeah, I probably would have laughed. I don't know what that says about us.
I found it kind of funny as
Aren't
well.
you like the face of Asian representation? I feel
Yeah.
like you should be... His face, it's so inscrutable. No, I like
Yeah.
the problem. It's like it's obviously not as problematic as like H.P. Lovecraft. But first of all, I also kind of I was thinking about this as I was like thinking about like what's problematic. I'm like, what does it mean to have something problematic? Does it mean that like when you read it, like it should be like you shouldn't be able to read it, or you should be reading it, or you should be reading it critically? Like when you say problematic, well, actually, I don't know why I said you. When I said the word problematic and pitched it as like the thing, I didn't really know. Now that I think about it, I'm like, I'm not sure really what I was getting at. Like, I don't know what the parameters of it are actually at all.
Well, you know how when you engage with someone's ideas, sometimes you're like, oh, this idea is very interesting, or I'm convinced by this argument. But then sometimes they present an argument and then you just disagree with. And then I think when that disagreement involves the way that they see gender or race, that's what in our time would be labeled as problematic, I think. So it really, for me, I just see it as something that you disagree with. And there are lots of things that I disagree with about my favorite writers, I think. And then I think I just picked these big categories. Yeah. I mean, say, for example, the way Susan Sontag wrote about China, right? I wouldn't say the essays that I've read is racist, but sometimes she did interpret China in a different way that I would. So that's maybe a disagreement that I wouldn't necessarily call problematic.
Say it's like a problematic one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I talk about my problematic fave and maybe
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, is it my fave? I don't know if it's my fave, but it's the
Problematic things we like.
Yeah. I guess it's pretty problematic. I love the book version. The book version of this particular work, I think, was really formative to me in terms of the way it dealt with form and voice, and I thought it was really, really, really compelling and thrilling to read. The movie version does not have the same formalistic structure.
It's very tantalizing already.
Yeah, doesn't have the same formalistic structure. It was directed by 3 different people, and it has a whole bunch of like yellow face. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about Breakfast at Tiffany's?
No, I'm talking about Cloud Atlas.
Oh,
Oh.
what? People like Cloud Atlas?
I think I liked it. Yeah, I think I watched it at a time.
I watched it too many years ago. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think I watched it during like a formative friendship.
Okay.
And maybe that's impacted it. But I've seen it, I'm like, oh, it's like whatever. I think it's like really problematic.
The book?
No, just like the way that they depict certain characters as like Pan-Asian or whatever. They're like prosthetically like it's terrifying. But I don't know. I think the work is still has
it gives you the ick.
to it. Has a value.
A certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. It's weird. Like they also like do whiteface for like some of the Asian characters. But the issue with that is like obviously the white characters who have yellow face have like bigger roles and like have bigger are more fully formed characters. But maybe it was like made much later and that weight was redistributed, it could be a bit better. But yeah. Also on this, I feel like Avatar: The Last Airbender, the TV series, has a problematic element to it.
Yes. Jeremy.
Sorry.
Jeremy.
Oh, yeah, he's my mate, and he fucking loves it.
Well, I just think like all these like white people doing like voiceovers for these Asian varieties of Asian characters, and I see that as a kind of like vocal yellow face. That's my take.
It's more like, like why don't you just cast Asian talent? Like give Asians more opportunities.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, how do you feel about Alison Brie as Diane?
Yeah, I was
because I love her
that.
as Diane, but then I'm like,
I also love her as Diane.
I like her as sure,
but I'm sure there would have been Asian talent. But I do love her as Diane though.
So like, I mean, it doesn't.
From BoJack Horseman.
At the end of the day, like Avatar is a fake Pan-Asian world, right?
Yeah.
It's so like it's
bruh, Pan-Asian fictional world. I haven't seen the Airbender or whatever.
What?
But like Pan-Asian fictional world, fantasy world. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, someone was making a point of like, because it's a fictional world and there are no like white people, the concept of representation in it is different because it's so different to our world.
I know,
but I still think these are like recognizable Asian characters and should be.
I don't like when Japan is mixed with China.
I love the politics that comes out every now and then. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
but sorry,
get that out of my face.
What books are there? But I love Cloud Atlas. The book. Although I guess now like Asian futuristic is like kind of like whatever,
I mean, the only time where I get actually uncomfortable is like watching Breakfast at Tiffany's or something, and then you see Mickey Rooney in yellowface, and you're like, okay, this actually does make me kind of uncomfortable. Like, so if we go to that level, like. If the barrier for problematic is like makes me uncomfortable, then like it's very few. It probably is maybe just it's the only one I can think of that like makes me physically. What
made me uncomfortable was Miss Saigon, and then it made me so uncomfortable that I didn't include it because it's not a problematic fave anymore. I didn't like it.
What's Miss Saigon?
Miss Saigon is a musical. It's also written in, I think, the 90s or the 80s.
So what's problematic about it? Because I actually have no idea what
it's it's about a 17-year-old Vietnamese girl who is orphaned by the war, falls in love with an American soldier. And then the reason he's drawn to her is because she's the only virgin in a brothel. And they fall in love, and we just have to believe that this is such a pure, genuine love, right? And
which it isn't, because
he leaves her. He leaves her with a son, and then she later on basically just sacrifices everything so that her son can have a better life. And then throughout the story, she is doggedly loyal to the American guy and to the United States. And then when the new Vietnamese government came in, they are the villains. They are the evil ones.
Fair enough, to be honest.
Yeah,
Now we're talking politics. I feel like I can bring mine in. Like,
but I'm sure if you watched it, you would feel uncomfortable too.
I might watch it just to see.
Yeah, don't pay money for it. Just
Oh yeah, because because that sort of stuff. It doesn't. Maybe the thing that I don't know. Like I for my problematic favorite, I was gonna be like, I was gonna talk about like fucking. Cormac McCarthy's an easy one, right? Like people are like, I like his prose because it's beautiful and it's like it feels like he's like there's one scene it's just horrible. Like he's describing like.
Is this Blood Meridian?
Yeah, Blood Meridian. He's just like describing like literally the murder of babies. Like it's horrendous, but it's also written like very beautifully. So it feels.
Did it serve a purpose in the story?
The whole thing. You know what it feels like? The whole thing feels like you ever see those giant like it's not like a tapestry, but those giant paintings of like a time in history that's incredibly violent and like, but it's like really beautifully painted.
Yeah,
that's what it feels like watching. Like it's just.
I think I respect
and
that.
Above all of that, there's this like mythic because when you were talking about mythic figures before, you know, like I don't know how the word hero, a mythic hero, but so he's not actually a good guy. He's just a mythic figure that's elevated to a status of a hero by like the strength of his deeds or whatever. And his deeds are literally like massacring people.
Oh my God.
Like all through and he's like he has this weird fixation, which is if he sees something in the world. And he cannot control it or destroy it. Like if he cannot control the thing, he like notes it down. He's like a genius, like botanist, like he's like a scientist. He's good at everything. He like takes notes on it and then he makes a copy of the thing and he destroys the original. Like that's his whole gimmick. And he's also like a pedophile. He's just a horrible person. But I really enjoyed the book.
So he's a hero in that terrible way.
Yes.
Terrible.
Yeah, I don't really know. Like it's the. Yeah, I think like I'm trying to think of like mythic figures that are like just really horrendous, but I can't.
I don't know much about mythology, but like I think what you've described now is already a very interesting take on like heroism, right? Like who do we idolize?
It's the size of the deeds.
Yeah,
that's kind of the thing, right?
No, that sounds very interesting. I get why you like the book,
but it's just like it's actually like horrendous and horrific. It's probably like the most.
Even more than American Psycho?
Way more. Because like American Psycho, the way that the violence is described, it
is detached in a way.
It's clinical and he's not doing it for glory. Like he's just doing it to feel something almost, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like this
guy's
guy's
doing it for glory.
This guy's for his own personal enjoyment. He's like riding across the country. He like waxes poetic about being a hero and defending white people against the savages or whatever. And then but then on the other hand, then when it suits him, he like is like, you know, these are the people who were born in this country and the Comanches come and kill Mexicans and.
Damn, now I really want to read this book. I feel like it's like a challenge, you know? Okay, I really want to read the delightful paragraph by Milan Kundera.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I can't talk about problematic faves without talking about Milan Kundera. I will say I've only read 2 books by him. The Book of Laughter and Forgetting and The Unbearable Lightness of Being. So I love the Book of Laughter and Forgetting so much because it's about all of my favorite themes, you know, about like leaving his homeland who was taken over by communists to live as an emigre in France. But this book is also very much about sex. Like all of his writing is just filled with sex. And then in this delightful passage that I'll read out now, actually, then he threw himself on top of her and began making love. He had the feeling that the leap he had just taken was a leap across endless time. The leap of a little boy hurtling his way from childhood to manhood as he moved on her. Each time he went back and forth, he felt he was describing the movement from childhood to maturity and back and back. The movement from a boy staring powerless at an enormous female body to a man gripping that body and taming it. The movement, usually measuring 6 inches at most, was as long as 3 decades.
I love how there's a bit, it's like, I'm 6 inches, by the way. Everyone knows I'm 6 inches. What?
Wow. Time.
It's just crazy.
I like the time aspect.
You can see that
You're really trying here.
you can see that black comedy.
Is it? This seems pretty like to me
Yeah,
out of
Mhm.
context. That feels really like unironic.
Yeah.
I don't know about.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, there's another line that says one of the surest roads to a woman's genitals is through her sadness.
Oh.
Oh my god, like I have such a love-hate relationship with this book, honestly. Like his critique, he's very openly critical of feminism. But then his criticism of feminism I disagree with very strongly, but I'm impressed because he managed to identify what feminism really is. So instead of just being like whiny about it on a surface level, he actually like I think identified one of the key elements of feminism and he attacked that. And I'm like, wow, that's an enemy that I can respect.
Wait, so
The aspect is he's like, I feel like what feminism is trying to do is to eliminate all difference between men and women. Yeah, right. And I agree with Susan Sontag, where I feel like a truly equal society is a more androgynous one. But then the way Milan Kundera, the reason he attacked that idea is because he wants to justify the desire that he feels for the female body, and for the fact, especially the parts where the female body differs from the male body. And then he's trying to argue that his desire and lust is perfectly honest and genuine, and that eliminating difference would undermine his lust in a way. You see how that's a coherent argument, right? And then I'm like, and as I said, sex is such an important part of his work. And then the way he writes about it is very demeaning to women. But at the same time, I do feel his honesty about his own desires.
I don't know if that's straight people.
Yeah. That's what. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He leaves no room in his intellectual discussion for queerness at all. Yeah.
Well, because you were saying right that you think that society is better if more androgynous.
Susan Sontag. That's a quote from Susan Sontag, by the way. So attack her if you. But basically, like,
just a note to the listeners. Feng Ling explicitly said she agreed. So let's just.
Yeah, I agree. So, because a lot of patriarchy is based on the gender binary, right?
Uh-huh.
And then that binary is enforced by like how men are supposed to be different to women, and how more women are supposed to be different to men. Like even just on the basic like gender roles level, like what women are supposed to do in a family or in a society, or even like in appearance level, what women are supposed to look like all of that combined, I think makes me feel like if we want true equality, that difference has to be reduced, has to be reduced.
When I think about androgyny, I think about like gender representing certain gender, but I feel like that's not what you're talking about. But
no, I think what Susan Sontag meant was that very set binary needs to be made more fluid.
Yeah, you should have more, not less options is sort of like the vibe. That's how
I think that's
whereas
what
androgyny feels like I guess maybe what you were thinking about is like when you say androgyny, it sounds like you're reducing the options to one.
Yeah.
Some generic third option.
Okay, maybe I didn't explain properly, but I think that's actually what Milan Kundera thinks too.
Right.
That's why he's against it.
And I think, but early, and also I think at that time, the feminism that he's reacting to of the time period is very much that, right?
Totally.
It's that, when was he writing?
80s, 70s?
What is that like? Is that second wave, like sort of
I don't know.
radical feminism?
I don't know.
That's around that time, I think. And it was very much that. Like it's like no one at that time was like, gender fluidity is not a vibe then. Like no one, that's not the...
But he, in his view, the feminism at the time was trying to eliminate difference. And like what you said, like reducing it to one rather than presenting more options.
Yeah. Oh, he would have objected to that as well, obviously. But,
probably he probably would have. He probably would have. But yeah. I think he's an intelligent critic of feminism.
Oh, instead of just being one of those guys in like a comment section.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like-
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So it does make a lot of his writing very hard to read.
So, but did you like physically like feel like a reaction to it when you were reading? This is kind of what I was asking about before.
I did.
right?
I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you were like, ugh,
Yeah, I did.
gross.
Like this whole book was like a mix of that's so funny, and oh, that's so true, and oh, that's so gross.
And you
It's
will
a-
read more of his work, do you think?
I will definitely, and I will be reading this book again too,
Oh.
because it's so well written. Like it's ridiculous.
Like there was like a song in like when I was in primary school, it's just like a song went on the radio, like a 303,
Yes.
like that song "Don't Trust Me."
Yes.
I was listening to it the other day,
Yeah.
and I can't remember why, but maybe because I was listening, and then so I was listening to, one of my friends was playing it, and then I was listening to the song, and when I search for it, it comes up with like "Don't Trust Me" the song. Directly underneath it, it's like a playlist that it's on called Misogyny, but it slaps. And like you talking about your favorite books
Yeah.
is like misogyny,
Right.
but it slaps.
Yeah.
I was like, it's a, and then I kept thinking about that, and I was like, oh,
Mm.
let's taste some books.
I can't think.
I was gonna say like I mean, we already briefly touched on it. I probably won't spend too long on it,
Mm.
but like the Murakami, like
Oh yeah,
yeah,
Murakami.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's like the
Mm.
easy one. It's yeah, like
I
the
haven't
sex,
read that much.
the sex scenes are like the whole criticism usually of Murakami is that like the women characters have like no dimensionality to them or whatever. Like,
Okay, like their job is to just be a woman.
but their job is to like it's always to be a weird woman. Like it's never to be
Oh,
like.
okay.
So it's always like I came across something when I was like thinking about this, was like basically the descriptions of like sex in Murakami novels, at least ones that I've read, they're always weird, and the man is always very passive in those like engagements, and it's always a woman like who has like ears that can like
Like elf years.
no, ears that like radiate a sound that like make like that bring you to orgasm or something, or like there's like,
Oh.
or he's like he lives with like two twins who are like weirdly ethereal fairies or something.
Nice.
They have sex like twice, but they mostly play golf. Like it's just weird.
Yeah.
So the sex scenes in like Murakami stories, they're all about like, it's almost like it's just like nothing. Everything is alienating. There is no safety to be sought in the arms of a lover. There's no like intimacy anywhere. Like the world is devoid of connection. That's like so.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I can kind of tolerate the bad sex writing, because I'm like, oh, the sex writing is like about bad sex. It's like yeah,
Because it's alienating.
the sex is bad. It's not meant to. None of this is meant to describe any good sex.
Have you read 1Q84?
That's the famously bad one, right?
I think I read it in like middle school, and it traumatized me.
I haven't read that.
And I think it's in 1Q84, and then I was too young, and then I was like,
That's horrifying.
I'm not reading it again.
That's horrifying.
I hope he never wins the Nobel Prize.
Hasn't he already won?
Has he already won?
I don't
Has he?
know. I don't know.
I hope he.
Oh, and the Kazuo Ishiguro one, not Kami. Mm. And also, I feel like the point to be made is that like if the writing is bad, it's always offensive. You know, I'm offended by bad writing.
Yeah,
This is a waste of time.
I kind of agree with that, and I don't know if, and I sometimes I feel like I'm like maybe. Like maybe that's not good. Like that's not a good quality to have, because like if you're only offended by bad writing, like
Oh, not only, but like I am offended by bad writing, among other.
I'm usually more offended by bad writing than I am by like offensive things. And I think maybe that's like
I think you need to watch Miss Saigon, and then you can come back and
yeah,
tell
well,
me.
I'll try it out.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
but my guess is I'm more likely to be bored than offended.
Yeah, I think this is a good place to wrap up our discussion. That was really fun. Thank you so much for coming on to Licensed Poetics, Eric. It was a pleasure to host you.
Thank you for having me.
Leave us a comment on Spotify.
Yes, they've got that comment feature now, which is good. Please leave us a comment. And if you'd like to support Licensed Poetics, please head to buymeacoffee.com/licensedpoetics. That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Fan Ling.
And I'm your host, Derek.
We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.
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 It's just intentionality. Anyway.
Okay. Okay.
We're cutting all that
We're
out.
cutting all this. We have just cut out of a section.
Should you say that?
Go to buy me a coffee for the extended cut of this episode.